I thought what might be helpful for us too is I do a friend mapping exercise called the Esteem Team. So I kind of thought we'd jump to that because I know that as we're talking generically here or sort of, you know, anonymously about our friendships here, I love this as an exercise to actually see who's in our circles at different times. You know, we might keep track in that way, but sometimes I'm just a visual learner as well. So we've created a worksheet for us to do today, and of course it'll be available for folks who want to help do this at home or in their communities online. It's really quite simple. It looks like a bullseye. It's called My Esteem Team because I love that because I think about it. I know you have it because some of your girls are here, but I do think about it as part of as the girls or the friends who would really like be with you when you're ugly crying, like who will, you know, maybe bury a body for you, who will cover up, who will do, like Leah's like, and I think in this world of likes and sort of currency of public attention, I look at the Esteem Team less as a volume issue and more of a quality issue. So you're gonna get this worksheet, and what I'd love for you to think about doing is right in that first little bubble, just I always put my name there, or it's me, because that's us. So we're at the center of our own little universe, right? That's where we live. And then if you want to just take a little bit of time to map out who in your life is in the next inner circle, like closest to you. And it could be right now. It could be always, like you might not see them, but you know that they occupy that real estate. And so just think about kind of who's closest to you, and then maybe who's orbiting around you. Maybe there are friends that you haven't been in touch with, but you'd like to get in touch with, or maybe you'll discover in this exercise some people you thought were closest to you actually are on that outer circle, not the inner circle. So no judgment in this, and there's no right or wrong way to do it, but it's just a great mapping to see in your life right now. Let's make sort of a matrix of like where your friendships are on the circle. So take a quick second, we'll do that. So what we loved about the idea of the Esteem Team exercise was that we can kind of get a visual look at our life, because I think in just how fast-paced our world is, and you know, we are keeping track obviously of the people we love and like most of the time, but sometimes it's just really great to see if we're at the center, who's kind of closest to us right now, and then who's in those outer circles. So just curious how that felt for you to do, any kind of insights, ahas, anybody want to share their Esteem Team experience? Yes.
The first people I wrote down were my mom and my sister, which like if you were to ask teenage me how I would feel about that, I would be like, oh my god. As a grown up, I'm like, nope, they're there for me, they're my people.
Unconditional love.
How many others had family in the inner circle? Look at that. So that you know what? What's your name?
I'm
Carolyn. I love that you brought that up, because I think we often forget that certainly as we grow older too, our family can develop friendships in a different way, right, than when our adolescents. So I think that's lovely. And I think that happens quite a bit when we do this exercise. We realize we become closer to our families for some people. What other experiences did you have doing this exercise? Yeah.
So I first wrote my mum and dad because I like them very much as I've gotten older, and I respect them and I think they're cool. And they've always been supportive and available throughout my journey. And along my travels from country to country, I have created my own family that just so happens to be my best friends. And two of them are here. Iskra, my sister, and my annoying little sister, Natalie, is here. And then also my friend Jodie, who I met along the industry, who's become, you know, my best friend, my sister, my ally, my role model. And my day one's Peppy from Australia, and my friend Erica. So it's people from the beginning, the middle, and then the continual growth of my journey. So it's a tight tribe, and we've all shared each other's friendships and then triggered friendships with each other.
An interesting concept. We can speak to that more later maybe, but that idea of sharing friends, because I've been in scenarios where I've had friends and I've kind of brought them to other friends, and then I had a weird situation where basically because I wasn't as available and because I was traveling, one of my friends started hanging out with my friend more than I could, but then did this weird thing where she started kind of rubbing it in my face. So we always used to have date nights, and then when I became more successful and less available, she would start doing date nights with my other friend. But it wasn't it wasn't nice. Like, it was to try and make me feel like, oh, well, you left me because you're too busy, so now I'm stealing your friend, and now we're having date nights. This person is no longer in my life. But even at the time, I was very confused, because I just thought it's a gift to share your friends. If you meet somebody that's special and amazing and brings joy and light to your life, I want my other friend to meet them, and I want us all to just have, you know, this shared amazing experience and family and network. And I have created that because you come to New York or you go to a different town or you go to college, and you can feel very alone and very isolated, and you create your own tribe, your own family.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too to think about relationships are not commodities, they're not things to own or to control.
Yes.
When you talk about relating to somebody else, I mean, the core element of relationships is relational, right? It means connecting in, much like we're talking about self-care as a relational property to ourselves. Yeah. Friendships are built and I think sort of fortified over time through experiences and through conflict. And so that's why, you know, those that I think have strong foundations can grow and expand, sometimes break off, sometimes come back together. But there's nothing that you can sort of own or hold on to. And I remember, especially as a younger woman, I think feeling that quite a bit, right? Like feeling ownership over friendships. And you just realize those are people you're talking about. And relationships take time and energy and investment. Yes. Right? So I love, Leah, that you were talking about this is sort of a collection of people from different spaces and places. How many of you noticed that you put a lot of work friends in this group? Yeah. And that's interesting too, right? Because there are moments in our lives where we go from school friends, and we have work friends, and we might have parenting friends, if that's the path that you're on, right? So you do have these different seasons. What else did you notice in this journey? Yeah.
Doing this activity and like actually putting it all on paper, it not only like makes you see where people are and your business in your life, but it also like makes you grateful to see that you have all these people that are here.
Yeah, that's nice.
That you might not always feel like it at every point.
I'm so glad that you said that, because I think that's why the visual part is so cool.
Yeah.
Because one thing you'd be like, if I said to you, think about 5 friends in your life, right? You'd think about it, maybe go through your scroll list in your head. But I actually think when you map it, it's important to see who's there. I also want to say that I want to acknowledge anyway that friendships can be really challenging for some people. And maybe people don't have family in that inner circle. And maybe friendships have been a challenge point in people's lives. So for me, I think it's not necessarily about sort of volume, but that quality, right? So if you've got like 1 or 2, I don't think esteem teams have to be multiple people. I think if you have 1 person and 2 people that you feel like are anchors or rocks for you, solid forces in your life, that's enough. And so I think sometimes too, there's always that expectation, right? We're supposed to live like we've got these gaggles of friends and like everybody's at an equal level in space and time. And certainly media portrays it as that way sometimes, but I think sometimes our real relationships might be very small for some people. They could be larger for others, but you know, it just depends on who you are. So I want to acknowledge that in the room as well, because I know when we talk about this, sometimes people come packed, you know, with a lot of experiences. What else did you find doing this exercise? Yeah.
I found that a lot of people in my outer circle are people that at one point I was really close with, but right now I don't have the time to devote to those relationships. Yeah. So unfortunately I have little babies at home and a job, and so the people in my closer circle are people that are my family or that I'm with every day at my job. Work.
Is anyone's husbands, partners on there? Yeah, Erin?
How did it feel when you did do the outer circles, to pick up on your point, and you maybe saw who was out there? Did you find that you were either judging that or feeling guilty about that? Or yeah, everybody's sort of nodding heads. Yeah. Why do we think we were feeling kind of torn by looking at the outer circle?
I feel like for me, I realized that some of the people in the outer circle are maybe the people that I talk to the most, and talk to as in like text or maybe see the most, but I don't feel like, you know, they are, you know, my rocks, my go-to when like the, you know, the really tough gets going. So I think it was felt a little bit guilty that maybe I thought on their end, maybe I might be in their inner circle, but to me, they're on my outer circle.
I love that. What's your name? Laura.
Yeah.
I think, I'm loving where this conversation is going, because this is where it gets really sort of deep and interesting, right? Because what I heard you say in that comment was you spend a lot of time with some people that you might not consider the time equaling intimacy or like a real deep friendship and knowing. I think what I might encourage us to do is try not to judge as we go today, whether that's good or bad, but just be aware of it, right? Because for me, we didn't put that on there, but I would add self-care for me has been this growth of awareness of trying not to judge or label.
Add it.
Because, and also your handwriting is pretty awesome.
Thank you.
But you know, I love, Laura, that you brought that up, because I think it's also a great way to track where we put our energy. So many of us are so busy. So many of us are trying to juggle and balance so many things in our life. And so where we put energy with people, I've heard some people say, and I'm wondering if this is true for anybody here, some people found that people who are on their outer circle are also people that maybe they want to move out of their life. Did anybody else find that? A little bit, yeah, a couple hands. Yeah. And like, how did that feel in noticing that? And that's okay, this is all about taking a good inventory, but you know, sometimes that's what comes out.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of people that I have moved away, like the people in my outer circle. There's some of my high school friends that I feel like we've moved away and we've grown apart, and then a couple of them that I've also had to move on from, but for some reason they still keep popping back up. Other relationships, the mutual relationships that we end up, you know, running back into each other.
Yeah. I think it's an important point, because it's, you know, not everything is going to be at the even pace the whole time. And that sometimes I think we can notice, like, wow, I've got people that occupy real estate in my life that, like, maybe I don't want anymore, or I'm not finding as much value in, or maybe I'm outgrowing, but because of nostalgia or a time in our life that we shared, we stay connected. So why this, for me, is all connected to self-care is because you were at the center of that circle.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes as we're trying to please lots of people and perform in certain ways in our relationships and in our work life, we forget the center circle, right? Like, who are we? What are you getting from those relationships?
I definitely think I've jeopardized my own happiness. I mean, my story was kind of crazy, but I ended up essentially having someone in my space and living with someone who, in my own home that I purchased and was very proud of, I would avoid going downstairs because of their energy. And that's an extreme version, but you know, if we just think about that as just a generalization, you know, I was letting someone literally hold me back from even going downstairs or cooking or doing something around the house, or like, you know, a serious avoidance. But the reason was because I felt a guilt around not realizing how I could fix the friendship or mend it or help her, because I knew she was going through maybe some mental health struggles. And as much as I tried as a friend, and I was like, oh no, but this is something that I like talk about all the time, and I was like, oh my goodness, you know, am I not practicing what I'm preaching? Like, how did this happen, someone close to me? But I had to remove the guilt from it, and realize it wasn't about me at all, and that I had to separate that and realize I still had to look after myself and my self-care and what I needed, not just try and fix something that at the end of the day, you know, that person has to look after themselves and they have to want to get help. And that person wasn't ready. So I couldn't do anything because they didn't want help from me. And as a friend, that can hurt. As a friend, that can be like, wow, you don't want to open up to me, you don't want help from me, and I'm right here, and you know, we've been so close for like 5 years and lived together and all that stuff. So for someone to not be able to come to you was like, it was offensive and it was hurtful, and it was like, wow.
Well, this is why it's so important, I think, when we were talking about doing this kind of workshop. It's a little amorphous. We were talking about it's so much easier sometimes to talk about body image or beauty or confidence because we've had a established narrative around that lately, right? We've talked a lot about it, or you've seen it pop up in ways, and this is such a specific scenario to be talking about. But even if you look at mainstream media and the way they portray relationships, romantic relationships, there's tons and tons of movies and content about breakups and heartbreak and you know, the feelings that we go through when we lose love. But when you have an experience like you had, Iskra, or like we might have here, where it's either a slow dying out of a relationship or a dramatic one, or just ones that kind of crumble apart, there isn't often, I find as we get older as women, a framework to say this is how you handle breaking up with friends or reestablishing connections with friends. And I think it's no different than any relationship, romantic or otherwise. And so it takes a set of skills to know what you need to ask for what you want.